Hey everybody, welcome back to Anime Sekai Podcast. I am your host, Ichigo.
And I'm your other host, Mikan.
Hello guys, welcome back. Join us this week for a very special episode as we discuss the movie Tunnel to Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes, also known as Natsue no Tanoru Sayonara no Deguchi. Hey guys, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We are back. Sorry we took a little quick break, but we are officially back, and we are back with a very, very special episode. So, this week we are going to be discussing The Tunnel to Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes, and this movie can be found on High Dive. And we actually received a recommendation from our very, very special guest, the Anilujah Podcast, Josh and Rebecca.
Yay.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome, guys.
Thanks. We're excited to be here.
Yes, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you guys so much. So, for those that do not know, the Anilujah Podcast is a husband and wife nerdy duo who discuss animated movies and TV shows with a depth of faith, giving an analysis of the median while drawing scriptural and biblical parallels each week. They release their episodes every Friday, and we are so excited to have you guys. They discuss not only anime, but they also discuss American cartoons as well. So be sure to follow them. We will be sure to put all of their information down in the description box. Can you guys let us know where they can find you guys?
Certainly. So we have a Facebook page, and we're also on YouTube. We're anywhere you can find podcasts. We're most active on Instagram, and all of our handles are at Anilujah Podcast.
Thank you guys so much. So we're just going to get the introduction stuff out of the way. So
Yeah,
what made
how'd
you
you get into this?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this originally started out as an idea to do a vlog. It was just going to be written. It's going to be on a website, and I was just going to write down my thoughts and general observations of different types of anime. And then when I was going through these different thought processes, Rebecca came in and said, "Well, we can't just do anime because there's so many other forms of media that we could include." And so we started doing more research and kind of seeing what was already out there. And when I was actually going through like different types of mediums, I was thinking to myself, well, a lot of people do commentary on anime, and we have Beneath the Tangles who does a lot of intersection of faith and anime. Why is nobody doing like broader animation?
I was
in
also
that
thinking.
regard.
Oh, sorry, Josh, to interrupt you.
No, jump in.
I was also thinking about, honestly, like none of our friends and families like really are super interested in anime. So it was kind of like, well, I want to include, if they want to listen, I would like to produce something that they would be interested in listening to as well.
Yeah, and originally it was just going to be a one-man show, but then I had Rebecca come in and do the intro and outro that we had on for the first few seasons of the podcast, and I liked that a lot. I'm like, hey, since we usually talk about a lot of things after we watch an animated movie or TV show, how about you come on the podcast? And we've been that husband and wife nerdy duo talking about animation and scriptural parallels and biblical themes ever since for the past few years. And, for people who are not of a particular like faith, background, or denomination, they can come for the animation part. If people aren't into animation, but they want to hear the scriptural biblical parallels, kind of us making those redemptive analogies. It's got a little bit of something for everybody.
That is amazing. And I love the fact that you guys are bringing both the concept of anime as well as American cartoons. and discussing both aspects. That is amazing. Thank you
Amazing.
guys so much. We are an anime podcast, so we're going to jump into the anime side. So, can you guys let us know, as of right now, what is your number one favorite anime?
Oh gosh, that is so hard to choose because we're usually watching like 2 or 3, sometimes 5, like consecutively. Rebecca, how about you take this one? Because I'm the pick on it.
Or
I
you
mean, the
can both
one
give us your top 5. I'll say top 5.
Okay, that's a little bit
we
easier.
can do top 5. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely do top 2 real quick because I would say Demon Slayer all-time favorite for me. I like a lot of the oh gosh, it's shonen, right? That's the genre. The
Yeah.
like male character that's woo, get it. We're gonna
Yes, I love those
fight.
too.
Those are great. I love those stories. So yeah, Demon Slayer is amazing. I also love Haikyuu. That one's great. We just recently did recently recorded a podcast episode. I think it'll be coming out in a couple weeks as of today's recording. Haikyuu is great. And then Frieren, we just finished up Frieren.
Yes.
That one was so good. I loved that. So there we go. Top 3 for me. I know there's plenty of others that are so good.
So along with what Rebecca said, to give my top 3, My Hero Academia
Mm.
is always a good one. And then I've also loved Vinland Saga.
Mm.
Just great story, great soundtrack. And for my third one, I've recently been watching. Okay, why is it left my mind?
Are you talking about Jobless Reincarnation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Rudius. Yeah,
Oh.
Jobless
Oh.
Reincarnation. Just watched the latest episode last night.
Right.
Oh, nice.
That's
good.
awesome. Thank you guys so much. So, this week we are actually going to be discussing the anime movie recommendation you guys gave us,
Yes.
which is The Tunnel to Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes. And before we jump in, I'm going to give just a very quick synopsis. So, the movie is about a boy named Kaoru. Kaoru finds himself standing in front of a mysterious tunnel, and he thinks of his younger sister, Karen, who he lost in an accident 5 years ago. Anzu Hanashiro, the new transfer student, follows him and promises to help him experiment with the tunnel. This movie can be found on High Dive. So if any of you do not have a High Dive account and are interested in this movie, I highly suggest you get a High Dive account and check this movie out. It's really good. And just initially, after just watching the movie just straight through, what was everyone's initial thoughts?
Yeah. So initially watching this, we watched it last night to prep for today. And so it was our second time, and it was still really good. It's such a nice, it's like a time travel kind of a feel without being like full on time travel. So it's kind of like a mystical element, I suppose. And then there's a romance component to it, which is really sweet. And yeah, it was really good, very thought provoking as well. I found a lot of symbolism in the movie, which I thought was really neat to be able to see all of that symbolism in there. And it's just overall a really enjoyable, sweet, sort of cozy film.
Yeah, I would agree. And it doesn't appear to be that long. I think it's only like an hour, 30, hour and 40, but at the pace it goes, it doesn't feel like you've been there that long. So the pacing of the story, the characters are well developed. As Rebecca said, they're thought provoking, and we saw a lot of symbolism in them, a lot of main themes. And Rebecca said we've seen it twice. I've seen it actually 3 times. I've watched it twice dubbed and once subbed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I guess you really liked it.
Yeah. Well, it's said time travel, which is, again, while it's not full on time travel, that is one of the elements I like in a story or a genre of movie. So I thought it was really good, really sweet. It's got that kind of like a slow burn of romance. So good overall story.
Awesome. Thank you. Mikan, what about you?
So for me, I'm glad you
Uh-oh.
guys actually recommended this because it was on my to watch list. And so I'm glad I finally got to see it. As for me, I felt I think I had higher expectations for one because I did enjoy the visuals and the music and everything was put together really great.
Mhm.
And I loved the idea, the concept. I thought it was really along the lines of something I really like, but I just felt that it was kind of a meh movie for me. And I think, like, as you said, it is like on the shorter end. I think, especially in recent years, a lot of anime movies run along like the 2 hour mark, particularly when it comes to like time travel. They usually go a little bit longer,
Mhm.
but it just felt very short. And even when I noticed like toward the halfway mark, I was like, I feel like I've been watching this for a while, but nothing really happened yet. So it I don't know, I felt like the story, there was, like, so much more that could have been expanded on, and it just kinda skidded over all that, and so I do understand why I believe it's a light novel and a manga,
Yeah.
and I could see in story form how this would play like, it would play out really beautifully as a book, so I feel like I would've probably enjoyed it more maybe in that form, but I just didn't like the pacing. I think everything else was great, the like I said, the visuals and everything, it was just the pacing that kinda threw me off a bit.
Yeah, I can definitely see how this would have been probably better in more of a long form to like really build up the characters.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought as well. It was like it just feels like there's so much more that we could have explored, all the different relationships and like the build up and
Yeah,
Mhm.
after it
yeah.
ended, Rebecca and I both were like, I just want more.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my main thing. So I enjoyed the movie as well. And my main thing at the very end was that was it. And just FYI for anybody that has not seen this movie, we will be giving spoilers. So not too many spoilers, hopefully. But at the very end of the movie, I was like, okay, is there a part two to this movie? Is that it? So basically at the very end, when they come out of the tunnel, I just kind of felt like there has to be more. Like if they gave me 30 minutes more, then they could have explained like, did Kaoru when he came out of the tunnel, did he age? Because it didn't look like he aged. I don't know if
Mhm.
anybody else caught that, but it
Yeah.
didn't look like he aged,
Yeah.
and Anzu did. So technically, let's say it's been, I think she said it was 13 years. And when
13 years and
she's
102 days.
30, dang. um, 13
Well,
years and 102 days. And she went in the tunnel to go get him.
I think she said it was like 5 years
8.
total. 8.
So
Well,
Yeah.
8.
yeah,
So
So
he
so
when
was
they
8.
gone 8.
initially, he
Yeah.
was gone
Then
8,
that
which
yeah.
means it took them extra time to get out of the tunnel,
Yeah.
and that caused more time. I was like, she is a successful manga writer. How
Mhm.
you just disappear for 5 years to go get
Yeah.
somebody in a tunnel?
Yeah. Well, they were explaining at the cafe, I guess her manager person, he was like, maybe you should take a break. So maybe that's why, is because she kind of, I guess, got away with it. We were Josh and I were joking about it being a hiatus, and we're like, yeah, like all those manga artists that take
Yeah.
hiatuses, maybe they've
Yes.
disappeared into
Yeah.
tunnels.
Disappeared in the tunnel.
And it's like, "Hey, I got a new
That
project out after 20 years."
that makes so much sense. We need to go find this tunnel because we now know where the mangakas
Yeah. I mean, this kid lost over a decade in that
He
tunnel.
did.
Yeah, he did.
That's a long time.
But he did not age, and you would assume that, I mean, I understand
Well,
that time
He
flows
looked taller
differently.
though. That was the thing when he
yeah.
got out
The
of the
very
tunnel.
end. Yeah. When he came out of the tunnel, I was like, okay, he's taller.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, time does, I guess, kind of like stop because there is a scene where Tona is going into the the tunnel, and Anzu stays behind to kind of see, okay, are you getting any text messages? Stop when you hear the call, and he turns back, and you can see like that progression of time. She's like moving at like hyper speed.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I believe actually the light novel and possibly the manga, they have like an after story of what happens.
Oh,
I'm not
Oh,
sure about
okay.
that, but I do think they probably expand a little after because I would like to know like what happens. He lost over a decade
Right.
yeah.
in his life. Like
Does
how
he?
does he pull the pieces back together? Kind of.
Well, not only that, does he reunite with his dad? Does
Yeah.
he explain how he just dropped off the face of the earth for
Hmm.
at this point when they're out of the tunnel 13 years and things like that. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. I also watched it last night and was like, oh, okay, this was actually a really good movie. Thank you guys so much for recommending it to us. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, certainly.
Um, One thing I will ask, and I'm curious to know if Mikan caught this. To me, the movie itself is a spin-off, I'll say a fun little spin-off of the Japanese folktale.
Urashima Taro.
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you caught it. Yay.
Yeah, no, the moment they said the tunnel name, I was like, oh yeah, makes
Yes.
sense.
So I don't know, Josh and Rebecca, if you guys know too much about Japanese folklore or Japanese folk stories.
No, we
But
don't really know anything.
Yeah, if you could give us
Tell
like a
us,
Yeah.
little,
what is
yeah,
this?
yes.
what's it about? Yeah.
So this folktale, and Mikan, you can correct me if I get any
Mhm.
of this wrong,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there is a Japanese folktale called Urashima Taro, and it's a story about a boy who lives near the ocean, and he rescues a turtle from fishermen, I think, that were going to
I
eat
think
him.
kids were like torturing him, the
Yes,
turtle, and he
yeah,
saves them.
kids were torturing the turtle, so he rescues the turtle. The turtle goes into the ocean, and either the next day or like a couple of days later, the turtle comes out of the ocean with the princess of this kingdom. And they invite Urashima Taro to go to the kingdom and have this big celebration because he has shown that he has compassion for ocean life. And so they take him into the kingdom. Mind you, the kingdom is in the ocean underwater. And he spends what he assumes is just a couple of hours and or a couple of days in the ocean
Yeah.
with the
I think it's
princess.
3 days, yeah.
Yeah, 3 days. He thinks he's there for 3 days, and each day they have a celebration for him. And he's like, okay, I really need to get back to my family. And so they said, okay, well, we're going to leave you with this parting gift. However, when you get this parting gift, do not ever open the box. It's a treasure box. So
Can't
he,
tell somebody that.
well, and
Yeah.
I was like, why did you give it to him in the first place? Because
Right,
when you find out the
exactly.
end, it's like, what was
Yeah,
supposed to be in the box?
yeah, in Japanese, it's like, tamatebako, which is like a special jewelry box, like treasure
hmm
box.
Okay.
It's a special treasure box, but he's told once he gets to the surface, he's not allowed to open it. So he goes back to the surface and he realizes time has shifted so much that everybody in the village that he knew, his family, his friends, everybody that he had grown up with had passed away. And I think they said it was like 1,000 years had
Yeah, it
passed.
was like a long time past.
And so he spends his days trying to cope and trying to get used to the time shift, obviously, because 1,000 years have passed. And he decides at the very end, he's curious about this box because he's carrying around this treasure box. He can't go back in the ocean to go be with the princess because she's like, look, once you leave here, you can't come back. He opens the box, and when he opens the box, he is instantly aged to over 1,000 years old,
Ooh, he did.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And
And
that is
basically his age was in the box is what
Yeah, his age
Um,
was in the box. So when he opened the box, he became the age that he was supposed to be had he not gone into the ocean.
Interesting. Why
But
would they not
because
just tell him, hey, if you open this, you're going to age? They'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, cool. I'm
Japanese
not going to open the box then.
folktales, yeah, Japanese folktales, they don't really tell people when they give you something. They're like, here, just don't do this one thing that I ask you not to do. There's a lot of folktales
Yeah, but honestly, I
like
never
that.
understood, like, the point of this story, but I guess
I wonder
um,
if it has to do with I mean, it's got to be like cultural significance. Like, what are the values of the Japanese culture? Is it perhaps like obedience? Is that something that
Mm.
is a value in culture?
I mean, honestly, I this story particularly, I don't really know. I think they do, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes they also just, they just make stories up.
Yeah.
I feel like ultimately the story itself is supposed to teach little kids, hey, when you are given something, if you're told not to do something with it, don't do the thing that we told you not to do.
Right.
But there are a lot of folktales that have kind of like that same meaning.
It's almost like the
So,
stories are getting at being comfortable with the unknown. At least that's
Mhm.
kind of what I
right,
see.
right.
Mm.
Well, and basically for Urashima Taro, before he opened the box, although the world has changed around him, he's still in the age that he was when he left the
Mm.
ocean. And so
Yeah.
that's what I got from this movie is I was like, although he looks taller, Kaoru is still technically the age that he was when he went in the tunnel.
Yeah, I wish they would have expanded on that.
Yeah.
But because honestly, I feel like for me, like the more interesting part of the story would be what happened after. Like,
Mm.
how did you farewell like afterwards? That for me would have been the more exciting part.
Hmm. It was like they took this folktale and put a fun sci-fi spin off on it. And it
Hmm.
was even great for me personally because once I realized that connection, I was like, and they're in a town that is right by the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder, is this like, let's say Urashima Taro's village that has now been thrown into, I think this movie came out in 2022, but they all had flip phones. So I'm going to say anywhere between the late 90s, early 2000s
Yeah, those
before.
flip phones are taking me back. I was
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
when he was running and typing, I was like, oh man.
Yeah, give
That
that the
T9.
yeah, T9 action.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of
Yeah.
the in one of the scenes there's a uh calendar, and on the calendar it says that it's in 2005 when it starts.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That
Okay.
makes
Okay. I
sense.
didn't catch that. So then what I had assumed was this would have been perfect if somebody had explained, like, hey, the folktale of this town comes from Urashima Taro, and now you have this tunnel called the
Well,
Urashima Tunnel.
yeah. But I think that's where they got the name from. They called it that
Oh, yeah.
because, like, according to their legend, it's like basically like it's the same folklore as Urashima Taro.
Mm-hmm. Josh and Rebecca, you said there were certain themes that
Yes.
you guys caught.
Yeah. So one of the main themes that Rebecca and I discussed is it seems that both Tona and Hanashiro are both dealing with grief
Mm-hmm.
because we have Tona who obviously his sister Karen he lost, and his dad gets into like a drunken state and says a lot of things that he probably didn't mean, and that causes Tona to find this tunnel in the first place. And then we have Hanashiro, who is wanting to be a manga artist, but she doesn't feel that she has talent, and she's also grappling with the death of her grandfather, and those drawings that she has are like she feels are her last connection to him. Rebecca, do you want to expound any on that?
Yeah, the grief that they're both, experiencing, it's almost like there's different levels of grief, and they're
Mm-hmm.
at different points in their grief. And it seems like Honashira is able to process a little bit better, or quicker, I should say. There's no right or wrong way to process grief unless it is physically harming yourself, if it's some causing some sort of harm. But emotionally dealing with it, there's no one way to deal with it. But she seems to kind of process it a little quicker and a little differently. And then you've got Tona, who really gets lost in the grief. truly lost. I mean, as is symbolic with the Urashima tunnel. He goes into this tunnel to try to get back. So he's willing to do anything to get his sister back. And as a result, he loses 13 years of his life. And I just was thinking about how so often, very easily, we could do that too. In our grief, we can very easily lose 13 years of our life or however long. And it's all about how we process it. Thankfully, we're not like, legitimately losing 13 years like like
Mhm.
Tona does.
Mhm.
But
But it can weigh on you a lot.
it
Yeah.
can. And
Yeah.
it makes a difference.
Well, in a
So
sense, some people can, just depending on the type of grief,
yeah.
because they never come out of it. So
Mhm.
their personality before the grief, they can easily lose in 13 years after that grief because they're still living
They're
in
dwelling,
that.
yeah, they're
Yeah, they're still
stuck in the
dwelling
past,
in that
yeah.
state.
But
And
I felt
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh. No, I felt that they were, like, at 2 different stages where she was, like, in a sense, ready to move on, and
Mhm.
he was still at the place where he can't let go.
Yeah.
And, like, there was a price to pay, but,
Mhm.
and he obviously paid it, and then eventually he was ready to let go, like, at the end.
Yeah. I actually like both of like what everybody's been saying. What I got out of the grief part of it was Anzu was very like she was in her grief, but it seems like her grief needed she needed somebody to pull her out.
Mm.
And that's what Kaoru's character did for her. And Kaoru noticed that because he left her the night before. He told her, "Okay, I'm actually going to push back going to the tunnel and I'll just let you know when I go." And then they had like a fun little outing. And the next day or that evening, he was gone. He went to the tunnel. And he tells her, "This tunnel is for people who have lost something.
Mm.
You have not," in a sense, what I felt like he was saying, "You have not lost anything because you have this amazing opportunity. You may have lost a connection with your parents, but you still have them.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to lose an opportunity going after something that you think is in this tunnel when it's not." For Kaoru, he was so stricken with grief because of the loss of his sister. His family had basically broken apart because of his sister's unfortunate accident. His father was blaming him for the loss of his sister, and his mother had basically left them. Like, we don't see the mom at all in the story, obviously, because the dad, as Crowder explains, he said, "My mom, after my sister passed away, my mom just left, and we haven't heard from
Mm.
her ever since." And I don't know if you guys noticed the look on his face when his dad said, "If it wasn't for you, Cotton would still be here."
Yeah,
Mm,
that
mm-mm.
yeah, that
And
broke my heart.
it broke my heart, and it was one of those things that I was like, not only is Kaoru feeling this himself, his dad also saying this really means that, okay, the reason my family is broken is because of me. However, if I go in the tunnel and I get Kanen and we come back out, all is forgiven. Like, we can be a family again. We'll all be happy again. Nobody will blame me for her death because she's not gone. She's right here. And I think the significance when he's in the tunnel and he finally meets up with his little sister, he knows that the tunnel is meant for people who have lost something. So what he does is he stays with her for however long. And the text messages start coming through, and he's looking at how much time has shifted, how much time has passed. That he's like, I didn't need to go back in the past to get something that I had lost because I can't bring her back. But I can move forward and overcome this grief. And the only person that can help me overcome this grief is Anzu.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it
Yeah.
yeah. It's in that moment that Tona realizes that he doesn't need to stay in the past. He needs to be present with the people who are presently there.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find it interesting too, as you were talking, just thinking about that door to his past didn't even show up until he got so frustrated that he was like, Karen, where are you? Show me where you are. And then that's when the door appeared. And, it makes me think, I don't know if we've mentioned, or I mentioned this last time we spoke on our podcast, but I am currently going to school to be a counselor. And so right now I am in the midst of taking a theories class. And so this week, actually, we were learning about something called choice reality theory, um, which honestly is played out beautifully in this movie because it's all about choice theory. The theory basically just says that you have the ability to choose what you do. You can accept the present. It does kind of deny the past, which is like, we don't need to look at the past. We only need to look at the present, which I don't quite agree with. I think it's important to look at the past, but that determines how we choose what we do. And then, reality theory is based on that idea of choice, that we all have a choice to make. And then it's our personal responsibility to make whatever choices we make, that's our responsibility. And reality therapy builds on 5 areas of, I wish I could remember all of them, but I can't. 5 areas of our life that we need to pour into. And if one of these things isn't being taken care of, then we look for it in other ways. But you could see that play out, Ichigo, exactly what you were saying with Tona.
Yeah, I agree. And I really like that when he was with his sister, you know how they tried the text messaging and it didn't really work in the tunnel?
Yeah.
But basically, I think when he came out, or she said something along the lines of, "Oh, it was probably because you found something you were missing." And those were the text
Mhm.
messages. So I feel like while he was with his sister, he realized he found something. The tunnel gave him back those messages because he basically found something he was more important that he was looking for, which
Yep.
was her. And I
Well,
was like, "Oh, that's really cute. That's really sweet."
yeah.
And in that step, he was able to move forward.
Mm-hmm. It also shows that you can, I don't want to say easily, because it's not true. But for some people, when you're going through grief, no matter what stage of grief that you have, the people that are always going to stick by you and stick through that grief with you are going to be the ones that are the special people that help you get through that grief. They leaned on each other to get each other through that grief.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Absolutely.
all need connection and community. And that's super important to be able to rely on the people in your life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And he didn't have anyone, honestly. Like, his mom left,
Mm-hmm.
and sadly, the people who should have understood him the most
Mhm.
kind of they all turned on each other. His mom left, and his dad, obviously was not the best person. And even
No.
for her, she lost her parents, which are, the probably the two people who were connected to her grandpa the most, as well as her. And so finding somebody else that's also in that process of grieving to have that connection is, so important,
Mhm.
particularly when the people that are supposed to have your back kind of basically leave you.
Right. Well, and that it's interesting that you bring up the dad because we were talking about grief. I felt like the dad's character is in a stage of grief where he wants to forget about every single thing and just run away from the situation.
They were all trying to cope, and I think you get like different stages of that.
Mhm.
Like, all of the people, they were all coping in different ways, whether good or bad, which I thought was interesting to see because everyone almost acted very differently.
Mhm. Yeah. He was definitely in a stage of denial, the dad, for sure, which is one of the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, he was deep in that.
Man, I'm just remembering him and I'm like, The fact that he tried to kick his son when his son was sick, like got sick, physically sick,
Oh,
and threw up.
yes.
Yeah.
That
Oh, that
made
was
me
awful.
so mad. Like who responds that way? Even if you don't know somebody, someone throws up, if they're so distressed that they get sick, the right response is, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? Like what's
Yeah.
wrong? How can I help you? Can I get you a glass of water?" Not
Yep.
to throw them out of the room going, "How could you do that? What's wrong with you?"
And
Oh,
he was
yeah.
crying before that too.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
was
So he was like,
crying.
"Why are you crying?" And then
Yeah. His dad the whole
Mm.
time was like, I know it's sudden, but I haven't had a chance to tell you. Any anime parent, that's a red flag for me. If you are an anime parent, not like not like a parent who loves anime, but like if you are a anime parent in an anime story, and your first thing to say to your child who, number one, you've been disrespecting, and number two, to be like, look, I haven't had time to tell you, even though I've been home and I've been drunk, sitting here to where I didn't even know you were home, but I didn't have time to tell you, I'm getting remarried and we're going to move. Like, sorry, it's so sudden.
Mhm.
Like, how do you expect your child to respond? I'm just curious.
I mean, even the mom, I was like, the fact that she just pieced out and left, like, oh, I was just mad at everybody.
I was mad at everybody. Good. I will say overall, I did enjoy it. I actually liked the fact that it was based off of a Japanese folktale. I love that aspect. I love the symbolism and the showing of how different characters approach their grief, and how if you kind of lean on each other, you can help each other get through the hard times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There is one other thing of symbolism that
Two actually.
yeah, two. Okay, you want to go into those?
Sure. Yeah. So, if you notice on the cover of the movie, it has the umbrella that they share, or that he gives her, Tona gives Anzu. And if I am reading this correctly, umbrellas really symbolize like love and relationship, because there's a lot of like, I think schoolgirls, right, will draw like an umbrella and then like their names of like who they
Yes.
like on the other
Yeah.
side, that's
Mhm.
like a thing. So I thought that was interesting because it was like that's their keeping up a relationship. They're I don't know, just kind of symbolizing that. And then also there were sunflowers everywhere.
Mhm.
And we were like, Josh and I were like, what is the meaning of sunflowers? Like, surely that's got to be something. And so Josh looked it up, and the meaning of sunflowers stem from their very nature. They're always facing the sun. They symbolize unwavering faith and constant orientation towards the light, which I thought was really cool, because ultimately that's what they're doing at the end of the day. They are looking towards the light. They have faith in each other, unwavering faith. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just thought that was a really beautiful depiction.
That's beautiful.
That's a lot of beautiful imagery, really honing in on all of the things that the movie is trying to communicate.
Oh, this movie is good. The imagery was good.
I mean, visuals, musically,
Yes.
like
Oh,
so
yes.
beautiful.
It
That
And
was.
the ideas are really great.
Yeah. The all the visuals in combination with the opening song. Ah,
hmm
wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, that was a great opening song.
It was. It was beautiful. I expected that kind of song to be at like the very end of these types of movies, but the fact that it was in the beginning, I was like, okay, wait a minute. What have I got myself in for? Like, I thought it was going to be a sadder movie, so I had to mentally prepare myself just in case it was going to be like super duper sad.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting too. I thought it would be like, oh, like a not a happy ending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you want sad, you need to watch I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. That is
Yeah.
a sad one.
That's another one that is on my list. I still
Oh,
haven't seen
That's
it.
sad.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Ichigo, I
But
don't
it's
know if
good.
you'll
It's worth
survive that one.
watching it.
You don't think I'll survive that one?
I don't know.
Oh no. Oh my
You'll be crying.
gosh.
You'll be crying a lot.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys
Yes, thank
so
you.
much for
Thank you, thank
joining
you.
us this week. We truly appreciate it. We are so happy that you guys were able to join us. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of fun. Just loved, just talking about this movie in general and seeing what we could draw from it.
Thank you guys
W-
so much.
Thank you, guys. We have to have you back again.
Yes.
Yeah, we would love to join you guys again. This was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, so
Yes. Thank you guys again so much for joining us on this week's episode. Before we head out, can you let everyone know where they can find you?
absolutely. So we are most active on Instagram. We also have our YouTube channel, which we produce the video version of the podcast. So the video version is always going to be the full conversation. And for those who want more than edited, succinct version, we have the audio version where you can find on any major podcast platform. And all our handles are at Anilujah Podcast.
Great. Thank you guys so much. So be sure you guys go follow the
Go follow.
Podcast. Go subscribe to their YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much again, Josh and Rebecca, for joining us. Be sure to catch us next week for another brand new episode. And be sure you guys are following us on Instagram and TikTok at Anime Sekai Podcast. All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.